What is something that is expensive, but only owned by poor people? Payday loans. They should be illegal. They hurt people more than they help them. That's some people's only option though. If they have shit credit and the lights are getting turned off, that may be their only option. Once those are illegal, loan sharks come back and you just get beat or killed if you can't pay it back. Interest rates are stupid high because it's high risk to lend to these people who don't have money in the first place, and they would go out of business if they charged reasonable rates. Yeah, payday loans have saved me in the past. When all the local places got shut down, I had to choose between bills and diapers. Thank God I'm not in the situation anymore, but I feel for people that are. Rent to own. Spoiler, you never quite own it. Places like Aaron's just make me mad. It seems like you're getting a good deal, but you aren't. You're paying like twice as much for an item. What? You don't want to pay $2,000 over 5 years for that PS4? It's only $8.50 weekly. Anyone that thinks this model is a good idea should not be handling any finances. At that rate, you'll have spent more in a year than it would cost to buy a PS4. Edit. The amount of people replying with cries of poor people have no other option or abuse of lack of financial skills is really concerning. This is a fucking PS4 we're talking about. It's not a necessity. If you really want one, save. Or get a calculator and do some basic elementary school math to learn that $8.50 per month x 24 months is more than what a PS4 is currently retailing for. Edit 2. My comment was referring to luxuries, not necessities. For essentials, I feel for people that can't afford them. In the past I financed furniture and other necessities. I would hope that everyone has access to fair financing for necessities, but I'm in agreement with everyone who says fuck companies that run an oligopoly and rip off people for essential products. Apologies to anyone that misinterpreted my comment, which was focusing on PS4s and other luxury items which people only have themselves to blame for making poor purchasing decisions. Wow, I was going to say it's immediate gratification and they can pay $10/MO for 3 years. I just looked it up and it's $94.99/MO for 12 months for a PS4. That's insane. Yet I went pawn shop hopping looking for an XB1 right before the pandemic. Thought Aaron's was a pawn shop, so I went in. I asked if they had an XB1S and the lady said yes, we have a few. I asked how much and she said $85 a month for 12 months. I actually laughed out loud. I asked if she was serious and she looked at me like I was the crazy one. I just put my zip code in on the Aaron's site and they're on sale for $59.99 a month. SMH, what a scam. Holy fuck, I knew a guy who got a promotion as a second assistant at McDonald's. Guy was bragging about $30K salary, how his wife can quit her job and he's going to Easy Home, basically like a rent-a-center, and buying anew the furniture set etc. When I told him he's an idiot, save up and tell his wife to keep her job, he got mad at me. He quit the job not half a year later cause it was too much stress. Now he's still under stress from crippling debt. Damn, and you know that furniture is about to get repoed too. My neighbors in college worked at Aaron's. Their job was to handle the physical repo of items. The store would resell half the shit as new if it hadn't been out long. The worst part was the stuff with just a few payments left is sold to employees. They had really nice leather furniture that they got by making the last 4 payments some poor soul got behind on. I bet that leather furniture has seen some things. I was going through a divorce in another state, and knew I was going to get my furniture at the end of the process. So I rented a cheap couch for like $10 for 2 to 3 months to put in my apartment until I got all my stuff. They tried to bully me into buying into all kinds of extra unneeded insurances. They were very forceful and condescending. Then one day, I honestly forgot to pay on the date payment was due. It was $10, and I easily had the money, so I was shocked at the level of anger and pushiness from the phone call reminding me payment was due. It made me feel very bad for the people who have to go through these situations and treatment in order to have furniture. Not to mention that the couch was complete junk. Did this when I first started out in life. I was literally 2 days late and the rude voicemails started. They would blow up your phone. When I made my last payment for that POS couch set with crappy tables, I was so relieved. Second best day was when I put it all on the curb when I bought something better at a regular furniture store. The reason that the rich were so rich, Vims reasoned, was because they managed to spend less money. Take boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50. But an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kind of boots Vims always bought, and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was in Ankh-Morpork on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that'd still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while the poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. This was the Captain Samuel Vims Boots theory of socio-economic unfairness. Sir Terry Pratchett, Men at Arms. Single items of things that should be bought in bulk. Like single rolls of toilet paper. Barely scraping by paycheck to paycheck means buying bulk is sometimes impossible. In poorer sections of a city, convenience stores and liquor stores sell single cigarettes. A Lucy taught to me by the Chappelle Show. I bought Lucy's from the corner shop in the late 60s. Being poor is very expensive. I make enough to pay my rent, but I work so much I don't have time for a dental appointment. Even with a stimulus check and priorities in place and a paycheck, I could lose my house if my landlord isn't understanding. I need a job. I applied for McDonald's because it's easy and I'm broke and need the money. They need me to buy shoes and pants before I start. I have money left over from my paycheck, but that doesn't mean I can afford anything more than laundry detergent. It must be nice having fabric freshener and those beads that make clothes smell nice. I have to buy 2-in-1 because who can afford 2 bottles? I had to decide between car insurance or groceries. I haven't made a payment on my credit card in 2 years, even with a stimulus check. I've been driving an unregistered car for 6 months. I wish I could invest, but my son started school and he needed clothes and supplies. Well, at my job there are a few people who I'm aware of their salary. They make around $25,000 a year after taxes. One of them somehow has a lifted Ford Raptor that I hear is like $50,000. He recently acquired a motorcycle too. He probably thinks it's cool, but he's likely eating the dirt off his tires because he can't afford anything else but those payments and insurance. Sounds like he has 2 jobs or doesn't pay for his housing. I'm sure he doesn't have another job. I am pretty sure he lives with his GF at her parents' house though. So that's probably it. Man, I remember how much money I thought I had when I lived with my parents. Shit, I remember how much money I thought I had when I had a roommate. Roughly $500/mo more than I have now, and I'm doing just barely okay right now. Lottery tickets. Well, 99.9999969% of lottery tickets. So you're telling me there's a chance? Having worked at a gas station, there are a few rich people who buy lottery tickets for the fun of it. Usually quickly preparable food items. They're usually more expensive than if I stuffed a bell pepper with rice and a small amount of minced meat and shoved it with the oven with tomato sauce, for example. Simple recipes with low ingredient counts are normally very cheap and delicious. They do, however, take time to make, time some people might not have because they have to work in order to finance the time they spend sleeping. Also, not having usable kitchens, which financially stable people don't even think of as a thing. Or a small fridge and freezer. Harder to buy in bulk or get family packs of meat on sale to freeze it for later. Hard to buy in bulk if your transport is the bus, bicycle, or walking too. The amount of privates in the army who have just enough money to pay for their 30% interest 2018 Ford Mustangs, but not enough money to buy literally anything else is pretty ridiculous. Edit. There to their edit too. Thanks for the ignite, kind stranger. Funny to me that my highest rated comment is about how stupid privates can be. This. The first thing they teach in basic needs to be financial management. So no shit, there I was, yesterday, brand new private comes up to me and says he wants a new car. I'm like, sweet, what are you looking at? This guy looks at me and says he wants a Hellcat. I about had a stroke. They always want the same 5 cars too. Mustang, F-150, Camaro, Wrangler, and Challenger/Charger. Funny thing is, financial management is taught in red phase, first 3 weeks of basic, at least in the army. Problem is, it's one of like a dozen PowerPoints, and the others are much more important, like what to do if a fellow private assaults you. Better option would probably be to teach it toward the end of job-specific training, so it will still be fresh when they sign into their first unit. I think the Marines started doing a Marine Week toward the end of boot camp. Navy did something similar for us. Nobody listened. All of our commands had a financial advisor, which was just some guy that had been in about 4 years longer than us and had volunteered for the job with no training. When I asked him at my first command about investing, he said that investing was pretty unrealistic at that point, and that I should instead buy a laptop so I could play video games to relax. Fuck that guy. I think every army organization has an officer who thinks he's a financial guru because he's into crypto and wants to give financial seminars to people who still need to learn how a checking account works. A lot of kids. The poor are often very fruitful. I am one of the lowest paid employees at my facility. I always wondered why some of my higher paid co-workers drove old run-down cars and I have a fairly new car. After a few years it clicked that they all have 2 to 4 kids and I don't. While kids are expensive, having a paid-off car is just so nice. So while I could 100% afford a nice newer or new car, why? A well taken care of older car is now paid off, squirrel away what would be the payment and just keep living life. If it works and it's not a money pit, no real reason to upgrade. I have quite a few co-workers with 4 to 5 kids that can't understand how I can afford new vehicles and toys. I have 0 kids. Since I have no kids, I was able to buy a small, very cheap house. With all those kids, my co-workers are renting houses with 4 bedrooms in shifty neighborhoods for nearly double what my mortgage is. Sometimes it's the other way around, they'd be rich if they didn't have a lot of kids. Some of the families I know have incomes of like 200-250k or even more, but they just had 6 to 10 kids and sent them all to Catholic school. My sister used to be rich in the sense that she had above average salary and only wore designer clothes. She has been a stay-at-home mom the past 8 years with 5 kids and is definitely not living like she used to. 5 kids. Goddamn, get them a TV or something. She always wanted a big family.